Hi, I'm Ross from EGR, and today I'm joined with Simon Collins, who is a real disruptor of the gambling industry. Simon, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for that great introduction, Ross. Yeah, it's been an interesting time since 2000 when I first got involved in the gaming sector, and I think I've brought quite a few unique and interesting businesses to innovate the sector. And now starting to feel like I'm becoming a bit of an old codger, unfortunately.
Could you just tell us a little bit about, the history and what you've done? It's very interesting, just for some of our viewers that may not be quite up to speed.
So in 2000, myself and Patrick Southern set up a business called Cashcade, which created a brand that everybody became quite familiar with in the UK marketplace called Foxy Bingo. Foxy, basically went after the female audience and was really fishing in a blue ocean as compared to some other operators and businesses at the time. So we're up against the likes of A and some other great competitors, Noel Hayden with GameSys and Jackpot Joy. And yeah, it was a really great time for the business and the industry. And, basically, if you had a digital pure play business rather than, something that had the combination of offline and online, it was a real benefit at that point because you could really just focus on marketing and promoting your services and targeting a really good niche or, a really interesting audience demographic. And we very successfully exited that business to Party Gaming, Jim Ryan and Nigel Birrell and that team, Martin Weigel. And then we went on to create a business that focused on sort of innovating in mobile-based gaming, and that resulted in us buying Slingo and creating a listed company called Gaming Realms PLC. And it was, another 10 years of great enjoyment and growth and innovation. And you're probably aware, or your listeners may well be aware, Slingo is performing very, very well in markets like New Jersey and Michigan and the US, led very expertly by an old colleague of mine, Mark Siegel, and my old chairman, Michael Buckley, who are having great success there.
As you say, looking at you've achieved incredible success within the gaming industry, but always on the commercial side. So what's made you want to join Better Change?
So it was an interesting opportunity that came to me as I stepped down from, I've been working at News UK, running all of their bingo assets and the dream team, the fantasy football and stuff like that. Stepped away from that business and Vicky sort of contacted me via a very well-known social network, LinkedIn, and sort of reminded me that we'd called up sometime before in Malta, and suggested that I take a look at a project that she'd been putting together and was working on. And it was really exciting to me to see an opportunity to get involved in a sector that is really close to everyone's heart these days, especially as regulation has come to bear across Europe. And I really think what she brings to the party, what Better Change brings to the party, is a better sort of approach to this kind of this scenario, one that's more sort of commercially focused and one that really looks to utilize both sides of the equation. So some of the insights that we've all got as having operated websites and operated businesses, but also combining it with that desire to prevent gambling harm and problem gambling and to address some of the challenges head on with sensible solutions that can work, for both sides of the equation, as it were, work for operators, but also work for those who are challenged and those vulnerable customers that we all know exist in the space. In terms of what attracted me to it is because they're offering such a unique focus and approach to it. And also the fact that they've got some very passionate people involved in this project, and some of the support for it comes from it comes with some really good expertise in the sector. So that's what got me interested. I felt it was almost karmic to try and get involved in trying to do something of this nature.
Well, we've seen with the B2B winners, rising star, you guys, you've hit the ground running, but just a little bit more on yourself as well. What contribution do you think you will bring to the table of Better Change?
Yeah, so what I think they were looking for is, could I open up doors to people and industry operators and businesses? So could I do some biz dev, some good old fashioned unlocking my network and opening doors to get to get this sort of opportunity and proposition across the desks of some of the more senior people in the sector. And we've just started that journey now, because it's as you're aware, it's a very young business that's just been going for a short period of time. But also what we're hoping to achieve is what we saw with Gaming Realms, is a little bit of that opportunity to expand these ideas and concepts across from Europe into the US marketplace. So hoping to really, sort of help other markets that are yet to sort of transition to the extent that the UK and Europe has, with how they grapple with this interesting challenge of regulated, safer, fairer gambling, looking after the player and making sure there's good player protections in place.
Responsible gambling and player protection has been a major focus for the industry for quite a while now. Do you think significant improvements have been made, and is there room for a little more?
I think loads of improvements have been made, and since the early days when there was very little guideline, obviously there's a lot more emphasis on this part of the business, and I think technology has really helped a lot in that sort of scenario. So some of the companies are offering, sort of looking at this challenge with really great algorithms and using some of the latest technologies to really pinpoint and improve their offerings, make sure that the players are nicely protected and are insulated from harm. And I do think, I've always felt from the very beginning of getting involved in this sector, the benefit we have as online operators with digital propositions is that you have a very good understanding of who the customer is. So, unlike someone who's just walking in off the street, it might be slightly harder to pinpoint and identify customers in those environments. Online, you've always got to trace and track. You've got an account that's normally established, and you've got lots of different sources of data and databases that you can check into and look at. So I think, loads of progress has been made, but for sure, like sure as the sun follows the night, etc. The opportunity is there to improve upon that, and hopefully not commercially disadvantageous improvements. So I think the opportunity to fund research and to better understand how we can intervene and how we can help players who have got challenges and problems can always be improved upon. And I think that's happening, and I think that's why Better Change was established, was to take advantage of some of those new approaches and new technologies. I think we all have an obligation to protect those that are most vulnerable, and I believe the industry is taking that very seriously.
Yes, a little more on that in terms of how important is it for operators to deliver a responsible gaming strategy that goes beyond sort of the regulatory requirements?
Yeah, I mean, so when me and Vicky talk about it, it's a bit like going out and getting yourself down the gym.
Okay.
having this stuff in your locker is a little bit like forcing yourself to go and exercise and getting up earlier to fit that in and making sure. And so any lean, efficient operation's got to have that impetus to get up earlier and get in a few extra hours and log a few sessions, etc. And so you've got to treat some of this stuff a little bit like, a fitness regime, shall we say, or, a dietary regime, and trying to get in fit and fettle and hungry for success and all of that kind of good stuff. And I think we need to be, as an industry, we need to be demonstrating that we've got the right attitude, that we've got the correct monitoring systems in place, and I think work very much in harmony with the regulators. So try and get the regulators to understand that no one wants to have challenging behaviours from customers, and it's in everyone's interest to try and make sure that we're doing as much as we can to understand the customer and sharing that knowledge across different sectors in different types of game style, etc. Sports through to casino back to sports, and making sure that we're doing everything that we can that it stays a leisure pastime. I'm a big libertarian. I believe people should be allowed to have a flutter on the horses, should be allowed to, but yeah, obviously not at the expense of basic enjoy. When it stops becoming something of a pastime and more of an obsession, that's when we've got to make sure we've got the right protocols in place.
And some operators will see responsible gambling tactics as a hindrance to their, profitability. How would Better Change address this mindset?
So I think, weirdly, there are examples already in the industry like Tombola who have taken an approach of extreme innovation when it comes to addressing these challenges. So they have good limits set up. And if you look at operators like Sky, they have very specific policies and procedures in place to just make sure it's a volume-based play rather than a sort of there's a interesting Pareto law that we see in gaming where 20% of your customers are responsible for 80% of your profits. That sort of analysis obviously makes implementing these kinds of rules and regulation, limits and deposit limits and account limits and betting limits and all that. Sometimes that can feel as if it's constraining a business. What I would suggest is, by making it more fun and enjoyable and introducing some of these techniques, you can actually have a much more organically healthy business. Number one, but number two, potentially a much better business. For example, at Better Change, we've got this process that we're proposing to various operators whereby they get customers to fill in and engage in some responsible gambling questionnaires and technologies and techniques ahead of time. And that then sort of gives you a check so that you can say, okay, we can actually allow this customer to carry on playing, and you don't have that suspension or the interruption of play, etc. And I think that's the approach we've all got to try and figure out and make it as frictionless as possible. And I think with things like open banking, where one can do checks on the fly into customer spending patterns and that kind of area, I've seen some very interesting businesses that have utilized the open banking technologies that are being pushed through across Europe to real great effect, to really understand who a customer is, what they are, without having to ask them to scan things and send them in. So I think all of these things together, if you can bring them together in a really neat package, you end up with a more efficient, better operation that the customer is happy because they're not being asked to scan different things and documents and stuff, but they are protected. And the operator's happy because they haven't got any challenging behaviors across their database. And most importantly, I guess, they're not getting the very high levels of fines that we've seen across the last few years for people who've been caught out on practices and approaches. And so, my ambition is with this business to really try and help bring that and those many different sides together. Number one, and number two, to ensure that everybody understands where they're sat and has a good understanding of what the opportunity is to address and make sure that they've got good procedures and policies in place.
Great, Simon. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Love to hear more about Better Change. So I know we'll catch up in around 6 months, and I'll let you get back to it.
Ross, it's been a pleasure to meet with you this morning, and thanks so much for taking the time and putting the effort in. Always intrigued with these new different types of interviewing techniques, sort of podcasts, vlogs, and Zoom videos and stuff like that. Apologies, I had to have the headphones on today. That was because we had some sound issues earlier on, so I feel like I haven't looked my best today. So hopefully on the next one,
you've done a sterling job. No worries, but it's been a pleasure, and thank you ever so much for taking the time.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Ross. Look forward to seeing you. Bye.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.